All right, today I wanted to give my impressions on 4 Thomas de Monaco scents I've been trying. First, I want to mention I usually don't really talk about subscribers or anything like that, but I couldn't help but notice the beautiful symmetry that I had posted 50 videos and I was getting really close to 500 subscribers. So I sort of kind of intentionally waited till I got 500 so I could see that 5,500, and we made it today. Anyway, I don't know if that's good or not, 10 subscribers per video average, but we'll keep going. So anyway, I've had this little sample pack that Lucky Scent offered of these 3 Thomas de Monaco X-strays. I hadn't heard much about them. Apparently when Raw Gold came out, it was a big hit and sold out right away. It was a limited edition, and now a little while later, he's re-released it and these 3 fragrances as X-stray. As far as I know, these are not limited edition, like the Raw Gold original release was, but I could be wrong. Along with Raw Gold was also, I believe, a series of 3 that came out at the time with that one, and they're in slightly different bottles than these X-stray. But I like when Lucky Scent offers manufacturer samples for a decent price because they're a lot better than the little dabber vials, so I ordered it, not really knowing much about it or what to expect. And I have to say, they've impressed me a lot. It's really interesting that this and then Roberto Greco are both founded by artists, photographers, and I think it really speaks to the money to be made in fragrance, because there's famously a lot of money to be made in art if you can hit it big. So when artists are coming to fragrance to cash in, it's really a profitable venture. But at least with these 2, I would say I don't feel too cynical about it. It doesn't feel like a cash grab. I think neither are famous enough to really go off their name recognition to sell fragrance. It's not like Dali the fragrance, or Warhol or Jeff Koons or Rauschenberg. They have a big name. They could slap some crap together and sell it just because of the name. But these guys, I hadn't heard of them before this. I suppose they're well known and respected within their worlds. But I feel like they do deliver on the creative direction, which is interesting that it's taking someone from outside to really creative direct more interesting releases than people who have been working in the fragrance industry. So anyway, I haven't read much about or looked into his work as an artist either, so I'm mostly just going to be talking about the scents. We'll start off with Raw Gold, since apparently that was the one that got really famous and sold out quickly. First, I'll say it's a very complex perfume. All of these are advertised as X-stray, and they are very, very strong and long-lasting. What's interesting, when I first sprayed this, I kept thinking I got a lot of sweetness and the sense of honey, but nowhere in the notes does it really mention honey. And then, of course, it struck me the name Raw Gold. What is raw gold? It must be honey, raw honey. So it's in the name, but oddly not in the notes list. But I definitely would say it's kind of a meditation on honey and all its aspects. But it's definitely not a one note, just honey, sweet note. Kind of takes all these odd, peculiar aspects of honey and amplifies them. The animalic aspect, the kind of waxy aspect. Apparently the original was more animalic, and this one's maybe been cleaned up or refined a little bit, but I'll just read some of the notes. Davana oil, cedar, orris, patchouli, gaiac, suede, vanilla, Laotian oud, and benzoin. I'll give a spray here. I've had these samples a couple months now, actually. There's a lot to unpack, and I've worn them several times because they're pretty interesting fragrances. Yeah, ooh, right off the bat, I think you get sort of the orris. There's sort of like a cool, earthy, wet clay, but already some kind of like pollen, beeswax, and leather, tobacco kind of smell. It's actually a very, very complex fragrance. There's a lot going on. It has a lot of stages. What I found wearing it was the mid starts to really bloom and become more and more kind of sweet and animalic, that it's very heady in a sense and almost overwhelming. Way later in the dry down, it becomes more soft and vanilla, but I'm talking like 8-12 hours later. The opening's amazing. Just some fragrances are so complex, you just get this almost swirling feeling as you smell it, and I'm getting that right now. It's just like swirling of notes. I feel like it's borderline on the edge of being a mess, but it's not. They all kind of, I think, meet in the center of amplifying some aspect that's already found in honey or beehives. I'll say it's not my favorite of them, but actually smelling it now again, I'm like, oh dang, that's really, really, really good. Some interesting little bit of marketing here. It says the manufacturing process for raw gold, maturing process took 3 years. This is the only way that more than 60 ingredients in patchouli that have been stored dry for over 20 years can develop properly. So they used a really special kind of patchouli, they macerated it. And honestly, I believe it because it smells extremely complex, but it also smells of one accord, blended really smoothly. But yeah, I get a sweetness, a waxiness. It has the texture of honey. It has that golden feel of honey. A little animalic, but it's not, I don't get anything that immediately reads as oud or anything stinky or skanky. It's just so deep, such like a deep, dark, leathery, but sweet smell. There's something bright in the top, which is nice balance that I hadn't noticed as much before. I feel like it's actually coming from the orris. It's like adding a coolness. So that's raw gold. The next one, this is my favorite, and it's my scent of the day today, is Fuego Futuro. This one I think I mentioned. And I almost oversprayed this. I really was enjoying the opening, and I went with, I think, 3 spritzes from this sample vial. And I feel like raw gold's the same way in that, yeah, it starts as a freshness, kind of, I get like a cool air after a rain on a farm kind of smell. And it tricks you because you think, oh, it's lovely, I want more of this, but maybe 1 or 2 hours, it's like it grows. Both of these perfumes, I feel like they start to grow in the mid instead of shrink. But what I find so interesting about this is it's an incense unlike any incense I've ever smelled. Incense often suffers from either oversimplicity, that it's just incense and that's all it is, or lack of longevity. The really realistic incense fragrances rarely last very long, often dry down to some kind of just generic fuzzy woody thing, but this maintains the sense of smokiness and ashiness for not just hours but days. One of the things that really impressed me about this was I had sprayed some on a hoodie that I sometimes just wear around the house, so I wear it multiple times, and weeks later, every time I put on that hoodie, I just thought it smelled amazing. This says Timut pepper, which I think that gives, again, a bit of a brightness and freshness to the opening. Mate, absolute, elemi, sage, hay, incense, sandalwood, Alaskan cedar, ash. Again, the mid, if you overspray this, to me almost becomes unbearable as it becomes so ashy, so incensey. But the hay and the mate are also really prominent. I get the sense of almost like you've gathered a bunch of hay on the farm and you're burning it all. So it's like burning, but there's also something of like a cool wetness, like a cold, wet grass, which, you know, is a contradiction because it wouldn't catch fire if it was wet. But in the mid, it gets really, really ashy, but never cigarette ash. But yeah, it's huge, long lasting and projection. I was actually a little bit self-conscious today because I think I sprayed too much, and the mid was just like pumping while I was around some people today, and I was wondering if they thought I smelled weird. Both of these are fairly challenging, I think, in their complexity, but they don't have anything, you know, super animalic or anything super weird. They're just so rich. I think that's the best way to describe it. Extremely decadent, and probably partly that's just the concentration extrait. So Last Sol Salgado is the last of the trio of extraits, and I know even using a spray on these testers, this whole room is gonna smell for a while. Oh, that's nice too. So this is the fresh floral one. It says linden blossom, mimosa, cotton, flower accord, salt, heliotrope, ambergris, sandalwood, skin musk, smoked vanilla. Yeah, right at the top, I actually get the salt. It has a heavy, waxy, tropical floral with a sea breeze and a real defined biting saltiness, not like a fake ambergris or iodine, but just like a real like rim of a margarita cocktail saltiness. The yellow florals do give a little bit of a sunscreen vibe, but sort of like an impossibly richly scented sunscreen vibe. Yeah, definitely give the mimosa a little bit of that almost banana ylang ylang, although that's not a listed note. But it says skin musks, complexity of smoked vanilla. This one I've worn the least, but maybe it's just the season we're in. I think, again, if you want a really powerhouse, deep sunscreen floral, because usually that's the kind of thing that's actually not a very serious perfume. It's just kind of a fun and flirty, light summer spritz. But this is like, if you take that concept but make it as serious and as deep and rich and complex as possible, you've got Sol Salgado. So I was thinking today about Fuego Futuro, how I really love this, but I don't love a lot of Amouage, and I've talked about that before, and a lot of theirs are very spicy and incensey, and I almost feel like these are what Amouage should be. Compared to these, a lot of the Amouage smell too messy, too many spices, it's like sneezy spices, things that are conflicting instead of working together. Whereas these, as rich and complicated as they smell and deep, it feels like everything goes together. I believe all of these are done by Maurice Bachmann, who is a perfumer I didn't know before. But maybe it's the blending, maybe it's the ingredients, the materials. None of these have any of the familiar tropes of kind of nouveau niche. I feel like a lot of those nouveau niche houses, I think they just go straight to like the big perfume houses, and they just pull something off the shelf, like this smells like it's in this price range, this smells like, because they feel just empty. Sometimes they smell expensive, they often smell good, but they just smell empty. Like there's no real direction, there's no real point of view behind them other than just the marketing of the bottle and the brand name. But these, they really smell like something special. But back to my Amouage tangent, I was saying, I feel like these smell what I wish Amouage would smell like, that complexity, that smokiness, that depth, that richness. Amouage should smell that good for the prices they charge, which is actually more than these. So these are very expensive, $295 USD for 50 mil, but they are X-ray, and I've worn this 5 times, and each wearing has been a strong, intense experience. And you can see I still have a decent amount of the sample left. I think in the running, just based on how great an experience I had, if I buy one, it'll be Fuego Futuro. But smelling these again, kind of want them all. Raw Gold is the toughest wear for me just because of the sweetness. Yeah, but I can't say any of them smell like anything else I've smelled on the market before. I've tried artisanal houses. I'm often disappointed by their sort of amateur nature. A lot of those tend to fall apart in the mid or the base, as impressive as they might be in the opening. But these don't at all. They kind of check all the boxes. Unique, extremely rich, extremely long lasting, not smelling like any of the typical kind of aroma chemical extenders that some other brands might use, but at the same time balanced very nicely. I would say they are very rich, and I'm not always the biggest fan of rich perfumes, so I think owning these, it would be a special occasion, once in a while wear. It's the kind of thing I think you could get tired of if you wore it all the time. Lastly, so we have one bad thing to say, I decided to try out Grand Beau because it had good reviews and sounded like something I would like. This is one, I like the scent profile, but the problem with it, again, Grand Beau, is it reminds me a lot of Frederic Malle French Lover. It has that same like Angelica greenery, like a lot like French Lover. I think I said this on a review I wrote in Base Notes, that it's like thinking you see your friend in a crowd and you tap them on the shoulder and they turn around and it's not quite them. because I know French Lover really, really well. I've worn that fragrance a lot. So when I smell this, it's like, wait, I know you. But it's a little bit thinner and a little bit more synthetic. It says it has pine, juniper, angelica, tuberose, olibanum, vetiver. Interestingly, ambrosinide, the polarizing base of uncut gem. But to me, French Lover is the superior perfume, and I know it very well, and I own it, so I wouldn't consider getting this. But because I love French Lover, of course, I do like this. I do like this smell. Let's see, I think that's all I had to say. I hope they're not actually limited edition, because I honestly don't like hyping up things that aren't going to be in production, because again, it causes people to run and buy things that they haven't thoroughly vetted. I don't like the whole FOMO hype. I don't like feeling, as a consumer, I don't like feeling pressured to buy it before it's gone. But I know that that tactic works very well from marketing. I know because it works on me sometimes, but I don't like feeling manipulated in that way. So I hope these are here to stay, part of the X-Ray collection, so I can save up my $300 to buy one of these. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Extremely rich, extremely interesting. Unfortunately, I think Lucky Scent sold out of their little pack of these manufacturer samples, but you can still get vials. I think I saw ZGO. I've never ordered from there, so can't speak to that, but I think they carry this brand as well. But yeah, really interesting. I wonder if this will be a future trend of artists, artistic directing fragrance lines or fragrance limited releases that relate to their practice. But in this case, at least, I think it's a winner. I think they really did something interesting here. I haven't researched this, but I'd be really curious just to know where the materials and manufacturing are coming from, because the materials smell very special. The ad copy says they're very special, like the, 20-year-old patchouli. So I wonder who's fulfilling these orders. Maybe Maurice Bachman works for a certain fragrance house that people know about. But I'll have to do my research on that. I only thought of it just now. But highly recommend you try these out, especially if these note combinations and rich, deep, long-lasting fragrances are of interest to you.